Welcome to today's webinar. We are truly delighted to have you with us. My name is Romain Ligaud, and I'm a private client advisor at Henley Partners, the global leading firm specialized in residence and citizenship by investment. For over 25 years, Henley Partners has been helping individuals and families secure their future through strategic investment migration solutions. And we are proud to work closely with the government of Grenada and trusted partners across the region. Today's session will focus on a particularly exciting opportunity, which is Grenada's Citizenship by Investment program, renowned for its strong global mobility benefits, E2 visa access to the United States of America, and its attractive real estate investment option. We're honored to have an outstanding panel of experts with us. First one will be Mr. Thomas Anthony, CEO of IMA Grenada, the government authority overseeing the Citizenship by Investment program. Then we have Ms. Mariam Mansouri, Sales Director at Range Development, the leading developer of luxury hotels projects in the Caribbean. Last but not least, we have Ms. Andreasen Bernard, Principal Executive Director at SAB Limited, a licensed global agent specializing in Grenada CBI application. Here is what you can expect during today's session. We'll begin with an overview of the Grenada CBI program presented by Mr. Thomas Anthony. Then Ms. Mansouri will introduce an exciting real estate investment opportunity qualifying for citizenship in Grenada. And last but not least, we'll sit down with Ms. Andreasen Bernard to walk through the application journey from initial consultation to the granting of citizenship. Last but not least, we'll open the floor to all of you for a live Q&A, so please do not hesitate to address your questions directly. Please feel free to submit your questions at any time. We'll do our best to answer as many questions as we can. But first and foremost, I will start by presenting Henley Partners and just guide you through who we are. So I will just share my screen right now. Up. There we go. Can you all see my screen by any chance? Thomas, is it all good?
Yes.
Fantastic. Well, who are we? Like I said, I'll tell you a little bit more about Henley. We'll discuss Grenada. We'll discuss the overview and requirements, the real estate investment opportunity, the application journey, and the Q&A, as we discussed. But first and foremost, who are we? Henley Partners, we are over 60 offices. We have over 60 offices around the world. We've been operating since 1995. So it's been 30 years this year. And what do? We provide guidance on families who are looking to obtain a second citizenship or residence around the world. At the moment, we have roughly more or less 40 programs in place, and we have successfully advised more than 25,000 families around the world. We also have a very different department specialized in government advisory. And so far, we have advised more than 15 governments who are looking to implement these programs. We have driven more than $15 billion in foreign direct investments. So, like I said, we do provide private client service, and we do have 40 programs at the moment. I'll show you a little bit more about the executive committee right now, but I believe that we will want to focus our attention on our program, existing programs in place. So Henley Partners, just so you know, was founded by Dr. Christian Kalin, founder of Henley Partners, originally investment migration pioneer and expert in the migration industry. Our global presence, like I said, we have roughly 60 offices around the world. So whether you're based in the US, in Latin America, Europe, Asia, Africa, all around the world, there will always be someone just to assist you regarding your migration programs. Finally, these are some of the programs we do have in place. So as you may see, we have 4 programs in place in the Americas. We have 5 programs which are citizenship by investment in the Caribbean, and we'll focus our attention on Grenada. We do have a program in the Middle East with a golden visa in the UAE. Some programs in Africa as well. We have a dozen programs in Europe, and we have roughly a dozen programs as well available covering Asia and Oceania. Now, I will just stop sharing my screen because we'll be discussing Grenada a little bit more. And Thomas, if I may, the floor is yours now.
Thank you, Romain. Ria, can you help me out with the technology? Share your screen. While Ria does that, good morning, everyone. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, attendees. Afternoon, evening, depending on your geographic location. I wish to thank Henley Partners for this opportunity to engage with you. I've been given an upper limit of 8 minutes to present, and so therefore I will necessarily be terse. But the hope is that during the Q&A, you'll be able to have your specific questions answered. And so all of the areas may not be covered in my overview. So Grenada, where are we, who are we, what do we do? So Grenada is an island in the Caribbean, located in the southern Caribbean, not far from countries like Barbados and Trinidad and even Venezuela. We have a population of approximately 110,000 people residing on the island. Our GDP is about $1.4 billion, and the main contributor to GDP is tourism, and it's a growing number. But in the recent past, over the last 2 years to be more precise, the CBI, which we call the investment migration sector, has contributed about between 30 and 37% of government revenue, as I said, over the last 2 years. And so it's become a significant contributor to government revenue. You can move on to the next slide, please, Ria. So in terms of the investment migration program, Grenada's program started by an act of parliament in 2013. However, the unit was not prepared for the receipt of applications until early 2014. So we are now about 11 years into a CBI program. There are 2 investment options, which I'm sure we'll discuss later. Primarily 2 investment options. One is a contribution to government into what is called a National Transformation Fund. This is a non-refundable contribution, and that starts at $235,000 for a family of up to 4. There's the second investment option, which is investment in real estate, which we will speak in more detail about. And that starts at $270,000 investment to the developer, plus $50,000 contribution to government. Again, for a family of up to 4 individuals. There is a less known investment option, which is called a significant investor, but that starts at about $1.5 million. And so it represents a fraction of the applications. In terms of the split between the real estate and the government contribution, it now stands at about 70-30, 70 being real estate, so that 70% of investors coming to the program would choose real estate over the National Transformation Fund. The advantages of the Grenada program, in my view, are many. So over the last couple of years, we did experience some backlog in application processing, and that's because we were overwhelmed by a significant number of applications starting in 2022 as we were accepting Russian applicants. And given that a deadline was coming, thousands of applications were presented at the same time. And so that created a situation where we were taking sometimes 8 and as an outlier, sometimes 12 months to process an application. We've significantly reduced that over the last year. And so we're now processing applications consistently between 4 to 6 months. Another benefit of the program, in my view, is that we have clear guidelines, a streamlined application process, and a completely digital process, so that there is no requirement for a local agent, and I'm sure Andrea will cover this later, to present to us original documents. The processing of the application takes place entirely in a digital environment. And that gives us advantages, such as being able to work remotely, has become the buzzword post-COVID, so that we're not reliant on individuals coming in, staff members that is, coming into the agency to process applications. And so applications can be processed at any time during the course of a day or even on the weekend, which we ordinarily do. Another benefit is increased mobility, so that individuals can access over 140 countries without having to go through a visa regime. And so for those who are business-minded and may have businesses in various countries, it eases the burden not having to go through a visa process. And so the Grenada passport allows that increased mobility. Also in Grenada, we have a attractive tax regime where there's no inheritance tax, there's no tax on global income, and you will only pay tax if you were to operate a business in Grenada. So all of your operations outside of Grenada would not attract a tax. And there's no income tax as well. And there's no capital gains tax, so that your investments will not attract a tax in Grenada. Also, one of the areas that separate us from the other CBI countries in the region, I think, is we have a well-recognized university on the island called St. George's University. And it started out mainly as a medical school, but has introduced different faculties over the last 10 years. The student count is about 20,000 at the moment, mostly students from America, but from other parts of the world. And one of the advantages of the medical school component in particular is that the practical component of the program, students will do the practical component in the US, in US hospitals. And so the program has become, over the years, an important feeder into the US medical system, so that many of the doctors who are trained at St. George's University end up working in the medical industry in the US. And an attraction for individuals considering Grenada as a CBI option is that Grenadians would pay 10%, up to, well, 10% of the tuition fees as a Grenadian, meaning that you get a 90% discount. I'm not suggesting that everyone would qualify, but it's an opportunity, a potential opportunity that is available to individuals who become Grenada to only pay 10% of the tuition fees for your children who are at university age. How am I doing for time? Rhea, please go to the next slide. Am I doing okay for time?
That's absolutely perfect. No worries at all.
Okay, and how do we get to Grenada? So there are many different options. One can get to Grenada from the UK, London, Heathrow, or London, Gatwick, from mainland Europe, from Germany. You can get to the Grenada from several cities in the USA, and you can also get to Grenada from Toronto. So many opportunities to come to, experience the culture and life in Grenada. So I'll leave it at that point, and then I'm open to questions at the end.
Perfect, Thomas. If it's okay with you, but perhaps we can continue a little bit because you've told us about this beautiful country of Grenada, but perhaps it would be great if we could just get into details to fully acknowledge, the eligibility to cover the investment options. I know you've mentioned the 235,000 US dollars. It's all good. Is there anything else you would like to add, or something we may have missed, or shall we just jump into the real estate investment option? How would you feel?
Well, given the opportunity, yeah, I'd like to add perhaps what a family structure looks like. And so anyone who's 18 years or older could apply along with their family. And Grenada over the years has been looked at as a very family-friendly option, so that along with the main applicants, you can add your spouse, you can add your children up to 30 years old for the main applicant or the spouse. You can add parents for the main applicant or the spouse.
Interesting.
You can also add parents and you can add grandparents of the main applicant or the spouse, and you can add siblings to the application, so that it allows for an extended family application.
That's really interesting. And regarding the siblings, do you happen to know if they have to be financially dependent from the main applicant or not? What would be the situation for them to qualify?
They would not have to to be financially dependent on the main applicant.
That's fantastic. So it's my assumption here. The assumption is that if, for instance, I was hoping just to obtain a second citizenship from the Caribbean, from Grenada, I can give the 235,000 US dollars donation, for instance, and I would need perhaps to add another amount of money as a donation for my sibling. Is it correct?
That's correct. Andrea will correct me, as she deals with this every day. I'm more, but I believe that figure is $75,000. Am I correct, Andrea?
That's correct.
To add a sibling.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Indeed, they don't have to be financially dependent. They would be required to be single, but it is a significant opportunity to add them at the additional investment amount of 75,000, as opposed to otherwise they would have to essentially lodge their own application at a full cost.
Yeah, so we should say it's unmarried siblings.
That's a fantastic opportunity if I sum up, because for an amount starting at 275,000, you can add your spouse, you can add your kids, grandkids, parents, grandparents, siblings eventually, and you can obtain, if I heard you well, you can obtain your new citizenship within a period of perhaps 6 to 7 months, if development processing time varies between 4 to 6 months.
Yes, once we get all of the required documents and we're not having to go back through the agent for additional information, we are adjudicating between 4 to 6 months. But I also like to add the fact that you can have parents and grandparents that are 55, not yet 55. For that group, you'd have to pay an additional investment, which is $50,000. But for those parents and grandparents who are 55 years and older, there's no additional amount if they fall within the family of four structure.
But so this is a fantastic gateway for families, for instance, who are looking to have a better global mobility, because on top of everything, you can go for a full family application, and then a citizenship from Grenada gives you access to more than 140 countries around the world, including the Schengen area. As we discussed before, there is the E2 treaty between Grenada and the US, which would help any citizen of Grenada just to get into the US via an investor visa, if I'm not mistaken. And it is a fantastic citizenship. So we've discussed the government donation, but if it's okay with you, Mariam, perhaps we can discuss the real estate investment option as well.
Because so before Mariam starts, sorry, are we going to discuss the E2 later, or should I just briefly say what that means for
Whenever you want. Yeah, yes, perhaps we can discuss it now. I'm more than happy to discuss it, and then we will move on straight away to Mariam, if it's okay with you.
So it's not, I'm not going to be long, but just so people understand what the E2 treaty means. Essentially, it allows a Grenadian to invest in a US facing entity, a minimum of 51% of the shares of the ownership of the entity. It has to be, the owner will have to operate the entity. And so they're granted a 5-year multiple entry visa to reside in the USA with their family. And so even children at school age will be able to reside in the US and attend universities or schools in the US. Again, multiple entry. So you're able to leave and return at any point during that 5-year period. Significant, though, is the fact that unlike the green card, your global income is not exposed to US taxation. So only the entity, the operating income from the entity located in the US will attract corporate tax. But your assets and your operations outside the US will not attract the US tax. So that's an advantage over the green card, the EB-5 program.
This would be a game changer for so many people, to be honest, who would be looking just to step a foot into the US afterwards at some point.
Yes.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Thomas, for just clarifying this point. It's beyond interesting. If it's okay now, we'll just switch to the real estate investment vehicle now. And Mariam, we would very much appreciate if you could just guide us into this investment vehicle so we fully understand what kind of investment is available in Grenada at the moment, if this investment has to be approved or not by the government of Grenada, and how it works. If it's okay with you, could you please just give us a quick, not a quick, actually a full presentation and sum up of the investment option available, please?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, for your time today. So as discussed, obviously, there's 2 ways to obtain Grenadian citizenship. One is through real estate investment and one is through the donation. And your first question regarding the where you can apply and what kind of projects it has to be, it's quite important. Before I start the presentation, I'll address them because a lot of clients come to us and ask us, can we buy land? Can we buy an apartment? Can we, you can do all of these things. However, that does not necessarily qualify you for citizenship. You have to invest in a government approved project where it is under, the government approvals. They've been looking at it, they're monitored, and that's how you'll be able to obtain your second citizenship. So having said that, I will share my screen with you. There we go. So as range, one second, let me just try to get rid of this. So as range developments, we are proud and we're blessed to say that we have the highest number of government approved projects that have been delivered in the entire Caribbean. So we started our journey in the Caribbean via citizenship by investment around 12 years ago. And we started with the island of St. Kitts, where we delivered the Park Hyatt Hotel. It went on to be named as one of the top 10 hotels in the world. Until today, it is extremely popular amongst most North American tourists and European tourists. We moved on to the island of Dominica, the Commonwealth of Dominica, where we currently have an intercontinental hotel, which we opened right before COVID hit. By the grace of God, it was a couple of very difficult years, as it was for the entire tourism industry, but we made it through to the other side, and the hotel is functioning, and Dominica is a wonderful, beautiful island. Our journey very soon took us to Grenada, where we launched the Six Senses Hotel in Las Vegas, which is, we delivered this project around 7 to 8 months ago. It opened its doors. It is a beautiful, fantastic hotel that every one of our investors has visited, and I encourage everyone to visit, especially the country that they're a citizen in, and enjoy the investment that they have made. Then currently we are doing the Intercontinental Grenada Resort. the Intercontinental Grenada Resort, a lot of people will ask why two resorts in the Caribbean, in Grenada. Grenada, like we just discussed and we heard via Thomas, is a great, wonderful country in order to obtain citizenship in. It gives you great global mobility. It allows you to include all your family members. The inclusion of siblings is something that really sets Grenada apart from everybody else. On top of that, the university, very, very popular, adds values because when people are looking to obtain second citizenship, it is mainly for the welfare and well-being of their families. Global mobility obviously plays a very important role. However, education comes in as a very close second for their children and their children's children. So if you can look here, the timeline of when we started in the Caribbean, 2017 took us there, and today we are 10 years into it, and we are also working in another project in Dominica as well. So just a little bit about the hotels. A lot of our clients ask, what's the caliber? How big are they? What do they include? As you can see, they are quite, they're substantial. You're looking at 126 rooms all the way up to 150. So I'll just show you a little bit about what we deliver and what your investment is. We try to make your investments worthwhile because one is you obtaining second citizenship. Two is making sure your investment is working for you. And that's where the exit comes in quite handy. If a project is not 5-star luxury, does not perform, does not have a brand name, exiting 5 years later is going to be a lot harder. But then, you know, when you look at the Park Hyatt, for example, this is what the site was before, this is what it is today. So Range sticks to its promises and Range delivers, and we're very proud. And obviously all our partners along the journey have been very, very crucial in us obtaining where we've gotten. So that was the before and after of the Park Hyatt. As you can tell why it was named one of the top 10 hotels in the Caribbean.
I can imagine.
The Intercontinental as well. Forbes magazine named it the most anticipating hotel opening in the Caribbean in 2019. Again, this is what it used to look like, and this is what it is today. Development in the Caribbean has its own challenges because, as Thomas said, the population is very small, and therefore being able to get everything that you need for a construction site in order to deliver a 5-star hotel has its challenges, but obviously we all reap the rewards as well. This is what you have in the Six Senses. What I really like about the Six Senses is the nature and the harmony and what we delivered there. As you can see, it says here, no building rises above a palm tree. These islands are beautiful. Obviously, development and investment in them is highly encouraged, but maintaining their beauty and their nature is also something that we take quite seriously as Range Developments. And we have a sustainability center, and we take that very close to heart. So this is what it looked like before, and this is what we have delivered to date. The Intercontinental is the only one which is not delivered. It's estimated to be delivered in 2026. Having seen what we can do, you can just imagine that this is going to be the end result of what we shall be delivering.
You said, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Mariam. So you're currently building the Intercontinental in Grenada at the moment, and you said 2026. Do you happen to know if we're closer to Q1 or Q4, roughly? Do you have any rough idea?
We are closer to Q4, but that's not just because of construction. High season in the Caribbean is Q4. So even when a hotel is delivered a little bit earlier, we don't open the doors just yet. You know,
I hear you.
We sit on the same side as our investors. We want them to obviously drive a little bit of a profit of their investment. The main driver of the investment is the citizenship. The main value is definitely the citizenship. But obviously, if you're investing, we want it to be safe and secure and hopefully drive a bit of profit for people along the way before they exit 5 years later. So in order to do that, every single one of the resorts that we've opened up has been in Q4 of that year. Because, you know, it's high season, you gear up for Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, and then after that, Valentine's Day and Easter.
Okay. And if so, the minimum investment, if I'm not mistaken, is $270,000
yes.
To invest into the Intercontinental. But what would any private family get for this amount of money invested? Do you happen to have any more information for me by any chance?
Sure. So obviously the government fees change as per the family composition, which is where you and your team are quite, you guys are very good at that, and we let you handle the files. So obviously it gets you the citizenship. For our Henley partners and our Henley team, they get, meaning their clients, we consider us all as one team together, is a free stay in the while the Intercontinental Grenada is under construction. The free stay will apply to any of our other hotels in the Caribbean. Once we deliver that, then it's going to be the Intercontinental. Again, like I said in the beginning, we encourage every citizen to visit their country, familiarize themselves with their country, especially for the families that are sending their children off to university in Grenada. So you get the free stay. You drive a profit from your investment as well. In terms of rental returns and so on and so forth, which we are offering as an upfront guaranteed yield. So that's there and it's within our agreements. And obviously you've got the exit strategy. Now the exit strategy, just the same way that, today when we have conversations around the investment, the main driver of the investment is the citizenship. And we're very aware of that, and the government is very aware of that. The law in Grenada allows you to sell your citizenship, exit 5 years later, the new buyer will also be able to obtain citizenship. So just the same way the driver was there for you to begin with, you maintain your citizenship, so does your family. And the new buyer, just the same way you were encouraged, and there was the main driver, will also be able to do that. And we've seen this happen over and over again in the past 10 years, at least with our own clients in range. 9 out of 10 times they exit within their own friends and families. So rather than, let's say there's a brother or a sister that's married and therefore can't be part of the application, or in a few other countries, they can't be at all, even if they were single. 5 years later, you can sell it on to a sibling, to a friend, or in the market to a second buyer that's looking to obtain citizenship. This makes it very worthwhile for a client. Because, it's like me, my cousin, and then the next family member and the next family member. So rather doing a brand new investment, we can sell it off to each other. The government fees obviously apply. And then, the investment allows you to obtain second citizenship.
So it's absolutely fantastic, because we all know that the main motivation for each family will be to obtain this second citizenship. But if on top of everything, they can benefit from a yield, for instance, a return on the investment, then life is great. Yes.
The return on the investment, free stay at, the resorts, being able to visit. So let's say hypothetically you have a child that's, going to university there. You get 7 nights a year for free where you can stay there and, be part of the community as well and familiarize yourself with the island.
No, it is extremely interesting, because I do operate, as you know, from the UK office, but I oversee many African countries around the world. And I do speak with many families who say, Roma, I've got this amount of money to invest. I want to have a better global mobility around the world. My budget is not in millions, but I want to invest roughly 300,000 US dollars, perhaps more or less between 300 and 400K roughly. And they say, what are the investment options available? Because when they're looking within their countries where the money is in a different currency, which is highly volatile, they would rather just invest into a safe space whose currency will be in US dollars, and know that they can protect their capital. Because at the end of the day, it's all about wealth planning. It's all about protecting our capital for the next generation as well. So this 5-year lockup, I do understand, and it's a requirement driven by the government. And if I'm not mistaken, in St. Kitts, we're talking about 7 years. So it's quicker in Grenada.
It's much quicker. It really, the investment really allows you to, yes, of course, get your citizenship. Grenada allows you a very flexible family structure. In addition to that, the exit allows you to make your money back or be able to divide that within your own family circle. So you have many options when you do an investment. You're not, it's not a one-time payment and then you're done forever. Also, as a naturalized Caribbean citizen myself, sometimes I do face how we obtained our citizenship. having an investment, having a five-star hotel, not that it's a requirement. Obviously, both routes are there and they're both available and they're all both by law by the government, but it gives some clients a little bit more peace of mind to say, I have an investment in my naturalized country. I am part of a five-star hotel development in my naturalized country. This is my loyalty and tie to the country. In many cases, it makes the clients feel a lot more comfortable.
Yes, I can only imagine.
By the grace of God, because we have a track record that I am grateful for and very proud of to be a part of the Range Developments family, that sets us apart. That gives the client comfort to say, all right, they as a developer are very much invested in the Caribbean. They are very much exposed in the Caribbean. They're on hotel number 4. So that when you're investing in another part of the world, a part of the world that you've never been to, it does create a little bit of anxiety. That's where a track record comes in quite handy. You know, the Intercontinental, the Six Senses, the Park Hyatt. These are all brands that all of our clients are familiar with. They've all stayed at them in different countries, in their own home countries. So to be a part of that with the track record and obtain your citizenship, it's a nice proposal. It gives our clients comfort. And when we onboard clients, that's what we look for. We look to decrease their anxiety as much as possible and provide them with comfort and ease as much as possible. That's why they're doing this.
Fantastic. Well, Mariam, thank you so much for the explanation. It's highly appreciated. And I'm sure that a few people may have a few questions for you along the way in a few minutes. But if it's okay with you, Andrea, now, I mean, we've discussed Grenada so far. We've discussed the 2 investment vehicles available, which are the donation for $235 and the real estate investment option for $270,000. But now, Andrea, the true question is, what's the application journey? How does it work? I know that Thomas mentioned a government processing time, current government processing time varying between 4 to 6 months. But now the question is, how do we make magic happen? How can any family obtain this new citizenship in Grenada? Could you please just guide us through the application process?
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me. It's my pleasure to have the opportunity to do so. I would say in the scope of time that I've been involved in citizenship by investment, more so now than any other time, because if I do say so, we have accomplished, and I would have to tip my hat to CEO Thomas Anthony and his team, because indeed the Grenada IMA process, the CBI program, and the process that the IMA team has now in place is quite efficient, transparent, predictable. And so it makes our jobs actually quite a bit easier, because we know what to expect. And we know how to really assist the clients and guide them to put together applications that can really get through the process very smoothly and efficiently. And so that is really where the role of a local agent such as ASB will come in. Our job essentially is to be full experts with respect to what are the program requirements and how is the best way to present the documentation and information required to ensure that you have a very smooth process through to achieving citizenship in Grenada. So I'd be happy to go through some of that with you.
Please.
If I can share my screen, it'll allow me to at least refer to some of the details.
Mm-hmm.
Are you seeing my screen?
I think they say Andreas and Bernard has started screen sharing, but it may pop in anytime soon.
Yeah. Hang on, it's popping up, I think.
Mm-mm. I'm afraid I don't know whether
I'm just freezing for a moment.
Your internet connection perhaps maybe.
Okay, well, I will proceed and see if it catches up with me.
Yes, of course.
And so at the moment you're just seeing myself, or I'm.
No, I'm just seeing a dark screen. We're seeing a dark screen saying Andreas and Bernard has started screen sharing, which is a bit strange. But if you wish, I'd be otherwise
my
happy to.
Zoom program that's not responding, so you'll just have to give me a moment to figure out why that is.
No problem at all. Otherwise, if you wish, I'm more than happy, if it doesn't work, to share my screen as well. We do have, that full application process timeline. So this may, if in case,
Sure, you
as a second
can
option.
do that. I just am also unable to see. Give me one moment, and I would say go ahead and pull up your
No problem at all.
Okay.
No problem. Perhaps you could start by walking us through eventually the application process.
Right. Hello.
Oh.
Are you now or still not?
I can see you. We can see you.
Okay.
You're back. You're back with us.
So sorry about that.
No worries. No worries at all.
All right. So let me just see if you are going to share your screen, but I was still hoping that I would pull back mine for reference. So if I would have one more moment, I will do so.
Of course, no problem.
All right, so we are back, and I apologize for that. So let me just refer to your screen, and I'll speak through the details.
Yes, no problem at all. Would you like to share me to share my screen?
Sure, unless we want to try me one more time, which
let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and up. Up. So let me just
see if I can see it.
You may see, there we go. This screen, this is where we were.
Wonderful. Yes, I am very familiar with this. And so let me take a step back. And so we had spoken about, the full process. And really, as you said, starting from the moment of consultation, what we want to do is just ensure that who we're speaking to is eligible. And it's not a very difficult threshold. The applicant has to be at least 18 years old, in good health, of good moral character, and have sufficient funds with acceptable supporting documentation to meet the required investment amount. So we have that discussion. Then we also had spoken about the available family structures. So again, that's an important part of the initial discussion. We speak about the persons within the family unit that could potentially also benefit and be added as a dependent in the application. And we've spoken a little bit about those details. So I'll move on. We also want to, of course, speak to and have a discussion about the various investment options and get confirmation from the client of what is their preferred route for investment, whether it be the contribution route or through an investment into an approved project. Now, we've also received a very wonderful presentation about an excellent real estate option in Grenada. And so it's up to the client to determine what's their best qualifying investment option. But the determination between a contribution to the National Transformation Fund versus an investment into an approved project doesn't change the application process, and it doesn't change the timeline or the vetting process. So the applicant doesn't need to be concerned about that perspective. So once you've determined what is the route that you intend to go, and it is important that the client will have to make that determination by the time they're making their investment. So it's an early discussion to have. And then we want to go into the details of what's required to pull the application together. The application package itself, as Thomas had indicated, at this point in time has become a completely digital process. And so there is a list of required application forms, including personal information, fingerprints, medical information, employment status, and so all of these forms have to be filled out. But again, the process of providing the information to the Investment Migration Agency comes through the local agent's office. And so we would have gone through and vetted. And then we have an online portal where all the information is essentially uploaded and delivered to the Investment Migration Agency. And then there's a very seamless, what has now evolved into a very seamless process of communication about the file through its life. Back to a little bit of the details of the actual application process package. In addition to the forms that I've indicated, basic information about the applicant really just required to build the profile, ID profile, so a birth certificate, passports, national IDs, police clearance certificates, education information, professional reference letters, proof of address. So nothing that's too difficult, but really, again, our role is to work with the applicants to ensure that they know exactly what will be required and how it needs to be presented, and ensure that it has the necessary certification in the form that is expected by the Investment Migration Office, so that we don't have any back and forth once the application is actually submitted.
The thing which is,
sorry,
I'm sorry to interrupt you for one tiny second. The thing which I think is important is for each person, each family to know that between all of us, they will be taken care of from A to Z. From the moment they create the application with one of our relationship managers to assist them throughout the process, regarding the investment angle, whether it's going to be the donation or the real estate investment, they will be in touch with Range Development's team. They will be in touch with yourself, Andrea. The idea is for them just to be taken care of from A to Z.
Absolutely. And to be honest, our role is very much a support role. So we are very much the support to the Henley team to ensure that they have very prompt expert advice while they're speaking directly to the clients. And so we play a role at the front end to make sure that all information is accurate about what the program offers and what is available, so that you know that you're speaking to Henley, you're speaking with full expertise about what the program is coming from on the ground. But then again, throughout the application process, when you're speaking to the Henley team, they really have the depth of an on-the-ground expert team who's in regular communication, constant correspondence with the Investment Migration Office. And so able to provide really a fulsome support, again, to ensure that the applications have the smoothest and most efficient process. So after we've got that application package together, working with that team, again, it's a seamless team, and it's good to see the panel because there's various touch points throughout. But Henley does an amazing job of making sure that it is that seamless support system to make sure that we have a very efficient process. We have the application package then available, and that brings us essentially to the submission process, which is a little bit of a two-stage process, because we first have to submit application documents to the bank and receive clearance from the bank to be permitted to submit the submission fees. The bank's clearance process only requires essentially a subset of the bigger application documents. So we're working simultaneously to satisfy the bank's requirements and the IMA's requirements. But it is a different entity, and so they may have their own queries, and so we have to go through that process. Now that process, as you see here, 1 to 2 weeks, and they've also become quite efficient and very well focused on the CBI business. So they know the business well. Our teams, again, have a good understanding of what they expect and what additional affidavits or information may be required when we see information, so that we help to get that also together even before we submit to the bank. So we do expect, again, a 5 to 7 business days turnaround for bank clearance. And once we have bank clearance, that's when we're able to essentially submit the application, the full application to the IMA office. And that would need to accompany the application fees. And the application fees are non-refundable fees paid to the government, which include due diligence fees, an interview fee. There is an interview that happens through during the vetting process. There's a government application fee, and then processing fees. And so essentially it's approximately 9,000 per adult in the application for fees. And that's to be submitted at the time of the application to the government along with the application, and those are non-refundable fees.
Understood. Okay.
The government vetting process then initiates, and we receive confirmation from the Investment Migration Office immediately, promptly upon submission of that application that they've received it. They do their initial vetting, and if they're satisfied with what has been submitted, they then initiate their due diligence process, and they would send us a prompt to say, your application has now entered the due diligence phase. And I think at that point, they start their process with their third-party due diligence providers to ensure the information received is accurate. They also have now an interview process, and so it's those third-party due diligence providers who reach out directly to the applicants via email that they would have submitted with the application, and they go through an interview process, online interview process, which is not too intense. And so even during that process, the due diligence provider is corresponding directly with the applicant, but we of course stay in touch to make sure that we track and ensure that everything's happening as it should. And then once that vetting process essentially has been completed, and as you see from the chart here, that's about 100 days or so for that vetting process, then the application moves into recommendation stage. And so then the IMA office would have collected the necessary data and can prepare a report that can go into the Citizenship by Investment Committee, who then makes a recommendation for approval, etc., to be essentially confirmed by cabinet and then communicated to back through the local agent's office and to the client. Once you've been approved, you are asked, you're required to make your qualifying investment, which you would have identified at the front end of the application, whether it's a contribution or a real estate option. You're required to make that investment within 30 days of receiving that approval. And so you make that investment, and we confirm receipt of the qualifying investment at the government and in the necessary or developer escrow account. And at that time, certificates are prepared, and they're usually issued within 2 weeks of payment of investment funds. Voila, we have certificates. At that point, we can review and confirm all the information is absolutely accurate. And then we proceed with that accurate citizenship certificate to obtain passports. And those passports, that process can take another week or so. And then we are able to present the proud new citizens of Grenada with their naturalization documents and passports.
I think Grenada, in my opinion, remains one of the best citizenship by investment just to focus our attention on, because it is the most straightforward citizenship by investment available at the moment. When we compare it, for instance, to any European citizenship, it will roughly take 16 to 18 months for us just to obtain a second citizenship. So for families who are facing a time constraint, this one, in my opinion, is by far one of the best programs we have, which is why we're really proud to be offering this program to our families. Well, thank you so much, Andrea, for your time and for these explanations. It's very, very much appreciated. Now, if it's okay with all of you, perhaps we can just move on to the Q&A session, questions and answers, indeed. So we can try and see how to assist any person, put it this way. So In the meantime, what I'm going to do is just show everyone's contact details, but I will be asking the questions right now. And we do have one, which I believe would be for you, Thomas. The first one is all about the E2 treaty. And the first question is, does the E2 treaty require me to live in Grenada to qualify? And if yes, how long do I need to stay in Grenada? Are you still with us, Thomas?
I am. Yes. Are you hearing me now?
Yes. So,
Okay.
as someone from the live session said, ask a question which I would assume would be for you. And it says, does the E2...
No, I heard the question. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
I heard the question.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Yes, I was late in unmuting. So yes, that's a very good question and a challenging one to get started with. So we may know that about 2-3 years ago, the US implemented a domicile requirement, and then not just for the Grenada E2 treaty, but for all E2 treaty countries, including Malta and some of the other countries with the E2 treaty arrangement with the US. And so, yes, there's a domicile requirement, but it's not necessarily a requirement to reside, because we know the two things are different, right? Residency is physical in that you have to move to the island and spend a minimum number of days per year to qualify as a resident. Domicile is a completely different animal, and domicile is determined by legislation. And so the work that we have to do as Grenada and we've started that work, is to create in law what domicile means. And the thinking is that it's a combination of some days a year in the country, a minimum number of days a year in the country, but also some other aspects to create a genuine link. For example, having an address in Grenada, so leased property, for example. Perhaps having a tax ID issued, yeah. Perhaps being a member of certain clubs, for example. So the thinking, we're doing the thinking about what that looks like, and then to create the legislation. But the other piece of that is to create legislation that's acceptable by the US. And so we're engaging individuals to lobby the current administration to get an understanding of what would be acceptable from a domicile perspective. A long-winded answer, but it's not a straightforward yes or no. Sorry. Romain?
Of course. Well,
No, I was
thank you
wondering
very
if I
much
lost
for your
connection.
answer.
Sorry. Go ahead, sorry. Yeah, I think I maybe have, is it me or is it? You're frozen, Romain. In the meantime, Andrew, I don't know if you wanted to make a contribution to the E2 question.
I think you've got it right. I mean, it's an area that still needs some exploration to get better definition. But I think you're right that it is not the same as residency. So I think that's an area that we're still exploring to understand, gain clarity from the US. What is the expectation, minimum expectations?
Okay. Seems we've lost Romain. I don't know if there's someone else, the host perhaps, who could pose the questions which the audience may have, the attendees may have.
So I see that there's a set, I'm looking at the questions now, and I see that there is another question that relates to more specifics of the E2. So I just want to, I guess what I would say is there isn't anyone on this panel really qualified to answer specifics about the E2 because it is a matter of US immigration law. And because there was a fairly recent adjustment to the rule, we are still learning understanding. And so we would also rely on guidance of a US immigration attorney to help with some of those details. So I apologize, but I don't know that we'll be able to provide the full details or responses that you're seeking about the E2.
No, you're correct. It's a US immigration issue. And so a US immigration lawyer would be the best individual to interact with in terms of the specifics of the E2. I see Romaine is back.
And so, yes, I see. Romaine, are you able to hear? No, I don't. I see he's only
okay. You go ahead, Andrea. Yeah.
Okay, there's another question here that perhaps Lady Mansour, you might be able to assist with. Can I apply with business partners through the property route? And how does
the short answer is no. So you can't co-own a investment if you're going to go through a government approved process. And I think that, Andrea, you can also answer that question with me, because the main applicant needs to be the sole owner of the investment, and the dependents have to be the family structure. They have to be dependents. So his spouse, his children, providing that they're not married, that they're under the age of 30, they're childless, and the children have to be dependent on their parents. If you're going to do it the other way around, you also have to show dependency where, the parents are not earning if the child is the main applicant. Siblings don't need to show dependency, but we can't have two business partners own an investment together and then qualify for two citizenship families within one investment.
Yes. I think that's the answer. I mean, in reality, each application is its own application, including the qualifying investment. And so each family structure would have to stand on its own and look at the qualifying requirements from an investment perspective.
Yes. But what they can do is, like we mentioned, the 5-year exit. 5 years later, they can exit by selling their investment to their business partner, whomever you are planning on doing this with. So every 5 years, you can do that within like friends, family, and I mean, anybody you can sell it to whomever you please.
Indeed.
But the trend we see, especially here in the Middle East, with the Middle Eastern clients, given that African clients as well, given that we're bigger families, we see the trend more within the whole family structure of cousins and siblings and aunts and uncles and so on and so forth.
So I'm having fun with this now because I can see the questions in front of me. This one goes over to you, Mr. Anthony. Is there an option for the processing to be expedited?
There currently is not an option for expedited application processing. What we're working on is reducing the turnaround time, right? The average turnaround time for all, by going to a model which looks at expedited. That looks like to our international partners, particularly those we have visa-free or visa waivers with, that looks like you are shortcutting the process and not putting the application through the normal process, due diligence process and the like. And so we don't like that connotation. So what we're seeking to do is to make the process so efficient that the majority of the applications will be approved, as I said, within that 4 and maybe even between 3 to 6 month period. Right. But no expedited, no.
I'll take the moment again to congratulate, because to my knowledge, it is the fastest processing time in the region. And so notwithstanding that there isn't a specific fast lane, I do appreciate that the program itself has gotten to become quite an efficient program. And I urge you to continue to work to fine tune as best as possible.
we are committed so to do. I mean, we made our internal systems far more efficient than they were, let's say, a year ago. There are a couple of pieces outside, a couple of parts of the process that are outside of us, and we're working with those agencies to try and improve their efficiency as well. And that may include providing them with the resources with more resources to improve their efficiency. But it's a work in progress. We continue to do that.
We do appreciate it. We really do appreciate it, Thomas. Just the soft copy, just that part, if we take that, has been it's been working wonders, because we have families that are not all based in the same country either. They've got kids studying abroad, they've got a sibling back home, and they're, maybe an expat somewhere else. And just the fact that, we can process these applications with you guys with soft copy by itself has been a huge relief, huge relief.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And Andrea earlier spoke about the digital process. A part of that process is the ability for local agents to see the status of the applications as it changes, as it goes through that process. And so there's no need now for agents to be emailing us for information. It resides on the portal, and they can see, as I said, as the status changes with the application.
Romain, I see we tried to carry on without you. Are you hearing us?
Yes, I can. I'm so sorry. We've had a major internet connection problem in the UK, so it's on me. I'm so sorry about this. I'm so glad you got a chance to answer some of these questions. But sadly, I can't even see the questions that were being asked, so I'm not being a great moderator.
So I'm just gonna
Andrea's doing a good job of that, so she can continue.
If I may, because I do think there's a couple. Well, I see one that I think is worth addressing. Is the citizenship for life? Can my children inherit it? Am I the answer? Go ahead, Thomas.
I'll give you an opportunity since you're the legal mind.
Well, it is certainly citizenship is for life. That's the easy part, right? Once you're granted citizenship, you have citizenship for life. Even better, the Constitution of Grenada provides for citizenship by descent, as well as the immigration laws of Grenada will provide for citizenship by marriage. And so the package of the application, persons who receive citizenship through citizenship by investment, including children and dependents, have the ability to pass that citizenship on to their descendants, to their children. And the laws of Grenada provide for 2 generations of pass currently. As well as I said, as those children or any persons who become citizens through citizenship by investment become married, they also have the opportunity to then have their spouse become a citizen of Grenada. And those are rights that they achieve when they become citizens of Grenada to be able to pass their citizenship and on in such a way. So there is one more question, I think, here. After the purchase of the property and getting passport, can I sell my property? And I think we've touched on this, but over to you, Thomas.
So the law requires you to hold on to your investment for 5 years. 5 years after, you're able to exit. And like we mentioned, when you exit, the second buyer is also able to apply for citizenship through the same path.
And there's no limit on how long you can hold it. No. That's your property after you've acquired it. It's your property, and your status as a citizen is separate from your ownership interest and rights as an owner. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes.
Let me just see if I see any other. Again, did we just lose Ms. Mansouri? Are you there still? Marianne, I think the next, there's a question here asking for a description more about the stays after the property is constructed and operational, or what are the, I guess, describe more about stays before property is constructed and once the hotel starts operation. So maybe just a little bit more about how your model works.
Sure. So you are granted a 7-night stay within any of our other properties in the Caribbean and the other islands. It can be Dominica and it can be St. Kitts. Once the Intercontinental is ready itself, then you can use your 7 nights free stay in the Intercontinental itself.
And Mariam, just for clarity, it can be in Six Senses in Grenada as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
However, given it does depend on the availability though.
Yeah.
And given that the availability of the Six Senses is usually quite scarce, we all offer the options of the Intercontinental Dominica as well as the Park Hyatt in St. Kitts.
Okay.
So Romain, I do believe I've been through all the questions that I see in the Q&A.
Fantastic. Well, the only thing I can do is, again, my apologies for having left the chat for a second. I'm back on my phone, but I just wanted to thank you all, our attendees, and especially you. Thank you so much, Andrea. Thank you so much, Mariam. Thank you so much, Thomas. It was a real pleasure spending this hour with you all. If you ever happen to have any question whatsoever, please do not hesitate to reach out by email, on our phone. I shared earlier our contact details. So I really hope that our attendees got a chance just to take some notes. But again, a big, big thank you to you all. And I wish you a lovely day and a lovely week.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Romain. A pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.